This almost cost me everything. My belief was comfort, and comfort almost cost me millions upon millions and impacting thousands and thousands of people over the last almost 2 decades. I kept waiting to believe after I succeeded. I said, I'll believe it when I do it. Very contrary to what I teach my clients, but that's where I was. But the truth is, wealth only came when I believed before I had the proof. And I want you to think about that. If you have ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but success still feels out of reach, this might be the missing piece for you. Over the next 10 minutes, I want you to lock in with what I'm about to share with you. I'll never forget the moment that it hit me. I was working harder than I ever had. I was chasing strategies. I was gathering so much information. And for 3 years, I was so stuck. And I said, my way is not working. Can any of you relate to that? Any of you right now thinking, God, I've been doing this. I've been putting so much effort, but I'm stuck. That's where I was. So I could relate. But the great part of it is I've gotten on the other side, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in this video today. And I will tell you, it's not because I didn't have the tools, and it's not because you don't have the tools, but because deep down, I didn't have the right story about myself. I didn't believe I was the person who could actually be wealthy. And then one day I asked myself a question that changed everything. What if the only reason I'm not wealthy yet is because I don't even know who the hell I am? And it's because that I have never really examined my beliefs. I was letting my results examine my beliefs. Is this making sense to you? Is this resonating with you? But I was hoping and wishing, but I never believed. And that's when everything changed. That's truly when it changed. See, most people try to build wealth like this. They wait for proof. It's belief, then proof. It's never proof, then belief. They think once I have the evidence, then I'll believe. They have it backwards. And I could tell you there's a reason why I was stuck, and there's a reason why I live a life of freedom now. Because I changed my patterns. They think that they'll act once it's possible, but it doesn't work like that. Belief isn't something you get after the results. Belief creates the results. It's the thermostat for your income. And if you want to learn about thermostats, go watch my video on thermostat. It'll blow your mind. But if you don't believe you're the kind of person who builds wealth, who lives a successful life, you'll sabotage, delay, and play small without even realizing it. I remember, I always call it my first Bob Proctor moment. If you've been following me for any amount of time, I had the greatest mentor in the world in Bob Proctor. But I call it the first Bob Proctor moment for me where my belief originated. First time I talked to him, I just lost my job and I was stuck. I was really chasing it. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I didn't have much money. And he asked me, he said, Arash, what do you really want? And I said, I'm not really sure. So I had no clarity. I knew I wanted success, but I had no vehicle. I had no job. And he said, if it was impossible to fail, what would you like? And I said, I would like to create a life of freedom. And he said, so you do know what you want? And he kind of chuckled. I wasn't really in the chuckling mood at that time. I was getting married 3 weeks later. But he had so much belief in what he was saying, but not just so much belief. He had so much belief that I could do it. And he said, I could show you how to create freedom. He said, you just got to follow some rules. And I said, what are the rules? And he said, you've got to do exactly what I tell you for 1 year. And I hesitated. And at this time, I was so stuck in such a bad spot. I was very honest with him. And I said, I've never done what anyone else has told me. And he said, well, today's a great time to start that. And he said, you're not getting the results, not because you're not capable of it. He says, you're not getting it because you don't have the direction. And I said to him, and maybe some of you can relate who've done similar things. I said, I've invested $30,000, $35,000 over the last few years and created no results. He said, I don't care if you spend $1 million if that's what it took to get you to me, everything is going to change. It just blew my mind. It just really blew my mind. I'd never had anybody talk to me like that, but he got me to believe it. In that conversation is when my belief started. Even though I didn't see the results, that's why I said it was my, I always told them that conversation was the moment that really opened up the floodgates for me. But belief is the first decision that you have to make. And from that point, within a year, I wiped out $150,000 in debt, earned a positive $282,000. I released 42 pounds, and it led me to my purpose, which I've done ever since, which is coach people all over the world. Now, I'm sharing it with you because I want this to be your moment of belief. Now, when you make it and own it, it starts with a decision. So I want you in the chat right now to type in, I am ready for my quantum leap. And I want you to type it in right now, because what I'm going to share with you for the next several minutes, if all you do is lock in on the next 10 to 15 minutes of what I share, your belief is going to go through the roof, and evidence always follows belief. But what happened that changed it for me? I believe somebody else's belief. I believe somebody I respected, that why would they lie to me? And I just accepted that idea. And that's when everything changed for me. Now, I want you to think what triggers in your mind when I say this statement. That you can absolutely, unequivocally create your own economy. What's going through your mind? Is doubt flying through? But I don't want you to just create your own economy, because let me tell you a secret. You're already creating your own economy. I want you to create the economy that you really want, that you only dream of, but I want it to be a belief. I want it to be a fact, and I want you to accept this idea. I remember years later, I had achieved something great, and my mentor said to me, why don't you do this every day? And I said, I guess I don't know. He said, this isn't rocket science, Arash. He said, just accept it. Well, what he was telling me, what do you think belief is? It's acceptance of an idea. Let's not make it so hard. Remind yourself, simplicity scales, complexity fails. So I want you to understand right now, and I want you to commit for yourself. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for you. That I'm going to create my economy, and I want you to define. I want you to spend a few minutes and write out in a paragraph, what is the economy that you're going to create? That's what I'd like you to do. Because when you do that, everything changes. Now, what are beliefs? Beliefs are created from past experiences. That's what beliefs are. Okay? So right now, I want to show you something. This is where you are right now. Okay? You're here based on your current set of beliefs from the past. But remember, beliefs are created from past experiences. But I want to create new beliefs. So for you to get from where you are to your goal, and I hope your goal is a worthy goal. It's a goal of creating your own economy, really living on your terms, doing what you love and loving what you do. So what is in between here is your story. Right here. This is what we need to upgrade. We have to upgrade this story for you to achieve your goal. Now, what's going on in this story right now is showing you your current results. Right now, your story is in harmony with these results. So, when we create a bigger story than the results, we start breaking through the wall that's going to get you to your goal. But do you even know your story? A lot of people don't know what their limiting or false beliefs are. I want you to get to know what they are. I'm waiting for evidence before I do something. I don't have the money, so I'm not going to act. I've failed so many times that I'm not going to try anymore. What are these stories? We first have to upgrade the story, and this is so important that you put a lot of conscious attention on, is your story. When you change your story, you can change your story right now. You can tell your story. If Arash can do it, I can do it. I'm just an ordinary person who just went all in, who really bet on himself. Now, if you bet on yourself and go all in and never give up, never quit, you're going to change your story. But our story has to be greater than our false beliefs. And that's what I want you to focus on. Your story has to be greater than your false beliefs. Now, let's take a look at this. Most people at a young age have been programmed to survive. I just want to get by. Does that make sense? But they're not programmed to thrive. I want you to be programmed to thrive. I want you to be programmed to make massive improvements. And what you have to understand is you must live right now at the version of you who already has what you want. I want you to walk like it. I want you to walk tall. I want you to walk like you're the best at what you do, that you have so much faith and you are so certain about where you're going. Well, how can you be certain? You have to believe it. You have to accept that idea like I was sharing. Then I want you to talk like it. I want your language to be so congruent with your goal. And I always tell people, if I was with you for 24, 48 hours and listen to your language, it would show me what you're creating in the future. So I want you to put in your notes right now, I'm going to bulletproof my language. And I don't just mean your audible language, I mean that silent voice. Because whatever we speak, we're putting into our subconscious mind. And then I want you to act like it. Look at your goal. Let's say your goal is to go from 100,000 a year to 1 million a year. I want you to take actions like you're already a millionaire. What are those actions? You do it before you're ready. You act right away. Everything you focus on is what you can give, not what you can get. You're constantly focused on service, not about what you're going to get. And then I want you to think like it. I want you to think wealthy thoughts. I want you to speak wealthy words. I want you to surround yourself in wealthy environments. And then I want you to serve like you've never served before. Serve like you never need money again. And all you're focused on is leaving everyone better off than you found them. When you do that, your belief is going to change. Emerson says, do the thing will give you power. I've never created one belief without action. I was sharing the story of when I decided, and I had that moment with my mentor, Bob. Well, that conversation, if I didn't follow it up with action and follow through with the direction he gave me, it would not even be a story because I'd never even be talking about it. Now, I can reverse engineer my life and look back and tell you that. So it's always about the visceral experience. But there's no such thing as a belief without claiming what do you really want more than anything else in the world. Your want creates abundance. But I want your want to be your reasons, not my reasons for you. I want you to have exactly what you want for yourself. But you have to define without rationalizing what you really want. I want you to say, if you want money, I want you to say, I want money so I can do what I want, when I want, with whomever I want, and I want freedom of choice. There's nothing wrong with that. I work with people in seminars all the time, and I'll ask them this question. I'll say, what do you really want? And you know what they tell me? They say, I want to serve millions of people. And they're sending a double-binding message because I'm feeling something different. And I said, I don't think that's really your why behind what you want. And they start laughing, and they say, well, I want more money. I said, well, why didn't you say that? See, we have to own our want, and we have to have no alibis, no rationalizations, and we give no excuses to it. We just own it because your want has to be authentic. Your want has to be driven by a big why. And when you connect those two, you're going to create belief. Belief is what creates success. Now, if your belief right now is, I'm not good enough, you will sabotage every blessing and opportunity that shows up in your life. You are created in the image of God. You are already gifted with being good enough. I want you to accept that idea right now. I want you to accept that so deep inside of you that you never start thinking, I'm never good enough. Now, so what I'm asking you to do today is we've got to change your programming. That's what belief is. Belief is at the identity level. I'm now the type of person that always believes in myself regardless of circumstances or appearances. That's when belief changes. Now, take an honest look right now at your present results. That is what you believe. That is what you believe based on your past thinking, feeling, and actions. Because understand this, the world works by law, and it's the law of vibration. You can only attract what you're in harmony with. And if you take an honest look at where you currently are, it'll tell you where your identity is. Your identity is based on your standards and the story. As I said above, the story is what we have to upgrade. Whenever I'm working with clients, I always have to give them a bigger story than their past. I have to show them how to break through and understand their past was just a story that's outdated. Because you can only attract what you're in harmony with. I remember when I started making some moves, I started taking actions that I never took. And then I had this idea that came to me. It said, if one person can create great wealth, so can you. If one person can create great health, so can you. I remember looking for people that I could mastermind with, like-minded people. I kept reading all these books that said, success leaves clues. I'm like, where are these people? Well, the repetition is what creates belief. But the repetition over and over again started attracting these people in my life. But your goal isn't something you chase. It's something you become by how you really change your story. Now, most people have really faulty beliefs because they're letting the present results dictate their belief. And if I could get you to understand one thing, I want you to hear me. And I want to go right in the computer with you right now. Maybe you're on your phone watching me. I want you to look at me when I say this. Your present results are nothing more than what you did in the past. Right now has nothing to do with the past. Your future is created by the belief you're created in this present moment. And I want you to believe you're good enough. I want you to believe that you could turn your annual income into your monthly income. And I want you to borrow my belief until you own it as your own. I love the quote by Napoleon Hill. He says, there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes. Look at that word again. Until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. There is no belief without an irrevocable committed decision. Most people don't have goals, they have wishes. Is that you? Open-mindedness is essential for belief. So if you dissect this quote, I remember I was sitting in Italy, and I've shared this story so many times. I was in Portofino, and I'm staring out at the ocean. I mean, it was just a beautiful environment. And I looked back and said, God, look how much your life has changed. And I'm not telling you this to impress you about me. It's to impress upon you what happened in the next few minutes. And I said, Arash, what was it that really changed your belief? What was it that really changed everything? And this thought, it was like a lightning bolt that came within a second. Nothing changed until you bet on yourself. And I want you to know, I bet on myself before there was any evidence. I bet on myself when I had no money. I bet on myself when I had $150,000 in debt. I literally turned down a new job opportunity because I thought, you've been studying this for 3 years, now is your time to be it. And I look back, nothing happened until I bet on myself. So when you bet on yourself, everything changes. Your belief, literally, you create transformation in that moment. Most people think transformation happens once they get the result. It's not true. I could tell you thousands of stories over the last 20 years that my transformation, I always remember it when I made the decision. So I want you to put in the chat right now, if you are ready to transform and you are ready to bet on yourself, I just want you to put in the chat, bet on myself. That's all I want you to do. Well, because words are powerful. Change is always linguistic. So I want you to own what you're about to create. Now, I'll share with you the biggest mistake people make in terms of creating belief and creating the life they want. And I want you to pay attention for the next few minutes because this idea will transform your life. Your current results, take a good look at them right now. They were created by thought patterns of repetition over and over again that created your current results. Now, you want a goal that is much bigger. But in order to activate that goal in your life, you have to upgrade your confidence and belief. Well, how do you do it? You have to make a decision. Remember what I said, nothing happens until you decide who you're going to be. So you have to make a decision first that I am going to think, feel, and act from my goal. So what most people do is they have a goal, but they don't follow up their commitments day in and day out with recommitting to their decision. Every day has to be day one. So what happens is they make every decision from their present results. And every time you do that, your goal just goes away. Now you don't have a goal. You're just creating the same reality year in and year out. And most people do this for 50 years, but that's not going to be you. You're going to get this today. Now, I want you to understand, if you make decisions from your current results, all you're going to get are the same thoughts, the same identity, and you're going to create the same reality day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and we call it life. That's not what I want. But then you're going to be that top 2%, that top 1%, that top 3% that says, no, I am just going to understand how success is created, and without belief, it is impossible. Your mind and thoughts must operate on the frequency of your goal. Well, how do you do that? You make a decision and say, this is what I'm doing, but it's not just any decision. I know what the results are telling me, but I am going to commit to a few things compounded over 90 days, and I'm going to create a massive quantum leap. Because quantum leaps are created minimally 90 days at a time. When you make that decision, you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to know you've jumped frequencies and you're in harmony with your goal because your thoughts are going to be so different. You're going to have so much more courage. The type of actions you're going to take are going to be different, and you're going to think and act like the person you want to become effortlessly. So there's no longer anything that is going to cause you to make decisions from your current results. Understand, and this was inundated with me, and I'm not just giving you this information coming from me. They came from my mentor, they came from my mentor's mentor. I'm talking, these are the best minds in the world that I'm transmuting this. Want is the only prerequisite for making a decision. Do you really want it? Do you really want a life of freedom? And then you observe successful people. They make decisions so fast and change them slow if they change them at all. Now, do you realize that one want, when I was struggling, has now created a blueprint for success that I have transformed thousands upon thousands of people's lives, creating freedom. But it all started when I was insecure, when I was failing, when I was doubting myself. But one idea of betting on myself changed the game. And that's what, if you fast forward 20 years, that's what I did. Now, I want you to only focus on building a bigger story of yourself. When you build a bigger story, everything changes. Every decision you make flows from the version of you who you believe you are. Just look at the last 24 hours. What decisions did you make? And if they were not in harmony with your future self, I want you to commit to stop making those decisions. I always share with my elite clients, the first thing I do is get them to change their decision making. I teach them how to make decisions only from their future self. And I tell them this, and I'll tell you this. What you're saying yes to, the majority of it you should be saying no to, and what you're saying no to, you should be saying yes to. Now think about that for a second. That's what creates belief, jumping out of your comfort zone. Now, your identity sets the boundary of your success. There is no identity without believing. What if I told you right now, the things you believe to be true are not actually true? You only believe them because you've accepted them from the past. Your identity, and let me change the word identity for a second to belief. Your belief is the ceiling you rise to and the floor you can't fall beneath. And I want you to understand that. Your life, my life, is the invisible expression of our beliefs. And that's what we've got to change. Now, let's take a look at something else. Let's take a look at this. I want this to be your new rules. And if you haven't watched my video on standards, we've got to set a set of rules for ourselves. But the first rule is my belief creates my success. Belief equals success. Now, number 2, you can't outperform the story you believe about yourself. Are you starting to get this? Put all your conscious attention for the next 30 days on building an enormous story of yourself. Do the repetition. Listen to it. Write it out. Record it. Listen to it every day, 10 minutes a day. But the key is not just listening to it. The rest of the day, I want you to think, feel, and act like that person. Number 3, every quantum leap, and I can tell you over 20 years of working at this every single day, every single quantum leap I've ever created started with belief, not proof. It started with belief, not proof. I remember before I went out into business on my own, I literally walked away from a multi-7-figure dollar income to go start on my own because I'd outgrown that environment. Well, at that point, why would I do that? I had all these contradictory beliefs that said, yo, you're putting your family at risk. You built everything to this point. But I said, no, I've outgrown my environment. I have to grow. That was my belief. And number 4, your subconscious mind does not work off results. It works off of belief and repetition. The repetition over and over and over and over again is what creates belief. Now, everyone wants to do better. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to do better. But they're going about it in reverse. They're trying to fix the result without fixing themselves, their belief. So they're always chasing symptoms, and I don't want you to chase symptoms. This is such an important lesson, and I want you to lock in for the next several minutes of what I'm going to share, because I'm going to give you the exact framework on how to change your belief. But the first thing we have to accept and we have to commit to is building a new model that makes the old model obsolete, like Buckminster Fuller said. And I want you to put in the chat right now if you're ready to build a new model with me. Now, you become wealthy by design. I remember I had a mentor who said to me, I said, what's the deal about money and wealth? He says, nobody creates a lot of money until they decide to create a lot of money. Well, it's the same thing about wealthy. No one becomes wealthy by accident. It's always by design. But in order to do this, you have to understand how your mind works. Your conscious mind is your intellectual mind. It has the ability to choose. So think of the ideas you're choosing. Are you choosing what you want, or are you choosing your current results? Are you choosing starting and stopping, or are you choosing commitment? See, you have to understand you've been gifted with an intellect, and your intellect is creating your results. Now, what does this have to do with belief? It has everything to do with belief. What I want you to choose is seeing yourself much bigger and dumping it into your subconscious mind. So that means I want you to only accept ideas that are in harmony with what you want. Remember the story I told you of my mentor, what he told me? He said, Arash, this isn't rocket science. It's just about accepting what you want and going to work on it. From that moment, my belief was anything I wanted, I just accepted it. And I want you to steal that framework from me. I want whatever you want, just accept it and start getting to work on it. Don't put obstacles that don't exist in your way. Now, your subconscious mind works in stories. It's always telling you a story. So right now you're probably, some of you have a story, well, Arash can do it, but I can't. Well, I have proof of my framework that thousands of people have created freedom. Well, if they can do it, you can do it. Take me out of this. But I will tell you, I've been on both sides of it. But when you understand and start working in harmony with your mind and choosing thoughts that are aligned with the reality you want, you will start taking actions you've never taken before. But the key is, when you get in harmony with the essence of who you are, that's when magic happens. Think of a time you really won. You were so free. You were so loose. Why? Because you were in harmony with the spiritual side of your personality. And without the spiritual side, it's incomplete. You're just grinding. Life is not about grinding. It's about effortlessness. It's about serving. It's about thinking what we want. But you don't do it forcefully. You make it a part of your belief. You make it a part of your identity. And surrendering is who you are. Now, what you plant in your mind matters. You can't plant worry, doubt, and fear, and you can't plant small thinking. I watch a lot of people who want to create a 7-figure income, and they can absolutely create it, but they think like the person earning $50,000 a year. You see how they're not in harmony? So if you want to create a 7-figure income, all you have to do is commit to it. Now you have to start modeling the who. Look at people, look at me, how I think, and make that thinking yours. But what I'm asking you to do is train your belief as your future self like you're already that future self. Your future self is so much smarter, wiser than you are right now. But understand this. It is so much easier to build a new model than trying to change the old. I want you to let the past die. I don't even want you to pay attention to the past. I want you, instead of trying to change the past, I want you to build the future. It is so much easier because now you're saying, I'm going to kill off my old seeds in my subconscious mind. And when you stop giving it attention, guess what? The seeds die and the new seeds grow. So it's so much easier to build a new model than focus on the old one. But when you never justify your wants, you own it, magic starts happening in your life. Now that you know what you want, I want you to imagine right now that you know what you want. Now it's time for you to believe it with every cell of your being with unshakable faith. When you believe in the outcome, that's all you see. That's what faith is. It's seeing what you want without evidence. But when you believe it before it's already happened, you're already planting seeds of your world-class life, that life of freedom right in your subconscious mind. Belief, you know when you have the belief that you know that you know. Think about a time you knew something, that's what belief is. Belief is the catalyst that brings your goal into life. Belief activates certainty. So right now, if you're not certain, I promise you don't have the belief yet. But if you're watching this, you're like, I already know where I'm going. Oh, you're on a great track. With belief, you train your mind to see possibilities rather than limitations. Now, decide today to stop waiting. Stop letting outside circumstances control you. Stop waiting for the outside to change before you change. I want you right now, literally after you watch this video, I want you to get out of your comfort zone. I want you to do one thing out of your comfort zone. But understand, you must eliminate the beliefs that are sabotaging you. So let's ask an even bigger question. What belief is standing between where I am now and where I want to go? And make a list and write them down and eliminate them one at a time. Eliminate them one at a time. Reprogramming your mind is about daily work. It's about intention. Intention is frequency of thought. The best thing I could tell you is master auto-suggestion and master accepting and rejecting ideas. The repetition of repeating the same thought over and over and over again rewires into a new program, and that's how you build the new model. And that's what you want to do. Every time you think a thought, you're wiring your brain. The more repetition of similar thoughts, it becomes easier to think that way. And that's why success will eventually become a part of your identity, and so will freedom. But I'm asking you to transform your thinking. Have a standard of thinking. And if you want a framework for standard of thinking, go watch my video on declaring your standard. I break it down on exactly the 3 key components on how to upgrade your thinking. But when you change your thinking, guess what? You change your believing. And when you change the way you believe about something, everything changes in your life. Your results are going to literally change overnight. But when you understand, you'll know when you believe. It's not just, okay, I believe, but I don't take action, then you don't believe. Action is the bridge between fake and real work. It's the bridge between intention and thoughts. It's not enough to think wealthy thoughts, speak wealthy words, and envision a big future without taking action. When you take action, you're not just wishing and hoping, you're willing to fail forward. You're willing to constantly course correct. But when you take inspired action, this big, bold move, it separates the leaders from the takers. Have you ever met anybody who's created success without action? I know I haven't. But this type of action that I'm asking you requires you to leave your comfort zone. You cannot grow inside your comfort zone. You must be willing to do uncomfortable things and feel the resistance and do it right away. I want you, whenever resistance comes, do the thing right away. You will create so much belief. I want you to make uncomfortable investments to get to your next level of freedom. I want you to do things that you've never done before. So if you're tired of chasing tactics and you are ready to unlock the only shift that actually makes success predictable, stay with me. Stay on my channel. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need help, send me an email. If you know somebody who needs help, get them on my channel because I promise you, you're going to be glad you did. Thank you so much.